All right. Well, I think we can get started then. Um, Welcome everyone to using product design to improve Drupal modules. This link here has got a link to the slides and also some templates that we'll try and work through. So I'm the product owner at a company called Dev Collaborative. A couple things about me. Father of these three kids. The oldest there in the red hair is Obsidian. Off to my side is Ember and Cam, front and center. Ember and Cam just started on a road trip yesterday with my car. First road trip without a parent involved. So far, so good. So far, they're having a good time.
Are you having a good time?
I'm having a good time. I'm a little bit apprehensive, but I'm also excited for them. I also play trombone in a punk band called Elegant Everyone. Shamelessly put a link to our website in the resources slide if you want to check us out. And I'm also the proud father of this dog, Bo, little sweetie. To sort of calibrate my presentation to you all, I'm curious about how you all relate to Drupal. Like, what is your role and experience level with Drupal? So I guess with roles, like, show of hands, anyone here a backend developer? Okay, 2.5.
A long time ago? Yeah.
Two halves, so we have three.
I can do it, but I'm not great at it.
Okay, cool. Front end developer, full stack. Anybody full? Okay, we got a full stack developer over here. Any designers? Any designers in the room? Nice. All right. Jack of all trades. Project managers. Got some project managers in the room. Anyone maintain or co-maintain a Drupal module or Drupal core component? Okay, a couple of folks. Nice. And then experience level with Drupal, 1 year or less. Any newbies? 5 years or less? 10 years or less? Okay, okay, more than 10. Okay, so we got some veterans in the room. Cool. So you all might know this history as well as I do in that case. So the Cathedral and the Bazaar was a seminal essay written by Eric S. Raymond back in 1997. It inspired Netscape to release their source code for Netscape Communicator, which went on to start the Firefox browser and the larger Mozilla project. And so Raymond was comparing sort of traditional proprietary software written by the likes of like Microsoft and Apple as like a cathedral in a small elite group of designers and software engineers developing software to then hand over to the masses, to sell to the masses. And open source software was this new thing on the scene, new, exciting, very different approach, which he likened to a bazaar. And so I'll share some of the principles from that of what we mean by a bazaar. So the essay had a series of principles, and I'll just cherry pick some that I feel like are pretty salient to the way what's sort of inspired us in like the predominant design methodology for open source projects. So principle 1 is every good work of software starts by scratching a developer's personal itch. You have some kind of problem you want to solve, you write some software to solve that problem. Another principle is treating your users as co-developers is your least hassle route to rapid code improvement and effective debugging. This like very kind of horizontal, participatory, like treat your users as co-participants. And so, the ideal is this bazaar. It's this diverse marketplace, and it's this flurry of creative exchanges between equal participants that end up with software or a project that is meeting a lot of people's different needs. And so this is kind of the ideal when I think of a bazaar. It's like super diverse in terms of like ethnicity, experience, gender, religion. Unfortunately, what all too often happens is you look around the room and that bazaar looks more like a scene from the show Silicon Valley. And so, I don't know. My like critical piece would be like, all right, so you're scratching your own itch in a bazaar. It's like an itchy bazaar or like a bazaar itch. That, more commonly what we call this is meritocracy. So meritocracy is a popular like governance model that kind of came to describe a lot of open source projects. So it's a system in which advancement is based on an individual ability or achievement. And way back in the day, one of the influential kind of Drupal pioneers, Angie Byron, wrote this blog post talking about her sort of observation of like how the Drupal community works, and came up with some sort of community philosophies. And in that, there's a big piece here around action is gold. And so you'll see like in the Drupal.org forums and issue queues, there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions, but the ones that really gain traction are the ones who go beyond talk and start contributing to the project. And those are the folks who get taken more seriously. So, right, this is based on their merit. My colleague Ben wrote a really good, like left a comment. You used to be able to do this back in the day. You could comment on people's blog posts and pointed out that meritocracy like has some real problems and baggage with it, right? Because merit often equates to like this like ability that can oftentimes get sort of assumed or tracked towards privilege, and that a better term could be do-ocracy, and that's actually what she was describing as more of a do-ocracy. And so in like a beautiful like example of like early internet days, she took that constructive feedback of Ben's and updated her blog post and was like, valid points. I actually think this is a do-ocracy. And so we've updated from meritocracy to do-ocracy. And Dries picked up this concept and popularized it in his State of Drupal in 2009, calling Drupal a do-ocracy, meaning the stuff that gets into Drupal 7 is the stuff that people like you actually worked on. So great. We've moved from a meritocracy model to a do-ocracy model. So let's check in back on that bazaar. How's that bazaar looking? Oh, it's these guys again. What the hell? And so I'll talk about a little bit about why that do-ocracy is still sort of holding us back. Here's a screenshot from a Drupal 7 module, very popular. I saw some hands raised, some like long-term Drupalistas in the room. Does anybody recognize this module? Bonus points. It provides a way of defining layouts, placing blocks in certain regions on a page. This is not Drupal core, it's a contrib module. Context. Yes, this is context. And I was working with a front-end developer who's appropriately, his name is Matt Webb. And he was new to Drupal. And he calls me over and is like, hey, Clayton, I think that there's a bug in this context module. It's like completely broken. I'm trying to take this navigation block and move it from the sidebar first region over to the header region. I'm clicking this crosshairs and it's doing nothing. And I was like, oh, sweet, sweet, innocent Matt. No. This isn't a bug. This is how it was designed. You can't do it that way. What you have to do is you click this little X over here to remove it from this region. And then you come over here to this little sidebar panel that is, for whatever reason, you can't see the entirety of it. Tiny little screen, and use this little scroll bar to scroll through the endless list of blocks that Drupal provides. Find your navigation block once again. Check the checkbox next to that navigation, and then come over here to click Add and add it to the header. And so that resulted in complaints like this one in the context issue queue. Totally confused by UI, and of course, like in typical messy open source fashion, right? It's just mostly a rant. It's not really a well-constructed bug report or feature request. But hey, credit due, look at the status of that. Closed, fixed. So, it did get solved. For context on the context module, there were 200 user interface issues reported in the context module, 73 of which are still open. But that module has kind of been deprecated anyway, so we can give it some slack. But this is what happens when things are built by developers for developers, and that's developers scratching their own itch, do-ocracy, like jumping in. And we've been trying to evolve Drupal beyond its its sort of impression or reputation as a very difficult to use content management system. And so, the vision these days for Drupal is that it's for ambitious site builders. The new Drupal CMS initiative is advancing this too, right? Like making Drupal more usable. And so we've evolved from a meritocracy to a do-ocracy. And I would say the official sort of Drupal approach has become what I would describe as collaborative. And so collaborative decision-making allows leaders to collect data and learn from others, but still gives leaders the agency to make decisions that go against the group's opinions. And so you can see there's a notable departure. It's not just like decisions are made by whoever is willing to do it, has an idea and is just going to jump in and do it. We actually have collecting data, learning from others, and then having some sort of leadership to make decisions. So how do we do that? How do we collect that data? And so I'm going to dive into that. So I'm going to tell a story about how I got involved with maintaining a module, and to get back to the title of this session, used a product design approach for this. So I use a module on almost all the projects I work on called max length. And that provides this countdown message here on text fields and other kinds of fields too, if you want to. So you can configure a maximum length, suggested length, or hard limit on a field. And I was using it with, I think with the Claro admin theme. And there was a bug that would show that message twice. And so I scratched my own itch, right? Principle one, I had a problem, wanted to fix it. So I worked with my colleague, Ben, who left that comment on Angie's blog post. He wrote a patch, and I tested that patch. It worked with Claro as expected back in September 24th, 2020. Somebody later on, a few months later, confirms, yep, still works. It's still reviewed and tested by the community. March comes around, yeah, that patch is still working. Can we get this thing, rolled into the main module? And it just kind of sits there, And then finally, August 27th, almost a year later, I'm like, you know what, man, I'm going to try and be a co-maintainer of this so we can get this freaking patch applied and get an updated version of this module. And to the max length maintainers' credits, they were super friendly, super responsive, and, a very typical thing. Somebody maintaining a bunch of open source projects is burnt out, overwhelmed, doesn't have time to roll in a patch and issue a new release, is very grateful to have someone else volunteering their time to maintain a module. So that was my path towards maintainership. And so when I joined, I was like, I want to use a product strategy, or a product design approach, and give this thing a product strategy. So product strategy involves a couple things. You start with a vision for what is the world like if people are using your tool? What problem is it solving? What is the mission? What are you trying to achieve by having this open source project exist? You develop a strategy, you come up with some specific plans, you put that all together in a roadmap. So for max length, we have this vision that the max length module helps website authors write concisely to better connect with their audiences and adhere to the character limits defined by the site's design. And we put together some values. So it should be helpful for authors. It should be intuitive for site builders. It should be sustainable to maintain for site owners. And it should be extendable for developers. And we used kind of a traditional design process of empathizing with users, defining the issues, coming up with ideas on how to solve those issues, prototyping, test, and then rinse and repeat. And through that, also tried as much as possible to do that all through the lens of what's called design justice, which is rethinking the design process so that it's centering people who are normally marginalized by design and uses collaborative practices to address the deepest challenges that our communities face. So how did we empathize? We started by going off of Drupal, the Drupal project's audience groups. So we've got developers, site builders, and content authors. And then the other facet of users is like your experience level with Drupal. So newcomers, learners, the skilled, the expert, and the master. And there's a strategy around like really focusing on that transition from the learner to the skilled. And so that was a big part of our emphasis. So what we did is we did some research to understand what was going on for users. So we put together some task scenarios, such as like install and enable the max length module, set a soft limit of 100 characters on the body field, and ran those to see what would happen for people. And so I'm just going to show a clip or two of those usability tests.
I believe you go into extend.
Let's see if I can
to see modules. And what I'll do is I'll filter to see if it exists.
And so this, I would consider this person, in that like between a learner and
but
skills,
it's not enabled,
right? They've used Drupal before.
Enable, and I'm going to click install.
Kind of like site builder sort of author.
Max length configured. So
they're trying. So she's trying to find where to set a maximum length for the body
content
field.
Types.
Okay, so content types, basic page.
Manage fields.
That seems like a logical place to find it.
I'm going to go see a body field.
And the body field, right? So this makes sense so far.
I'm going to scroll down and see if there's anything related to max length. Nothing here. Let me go to field settings.
Nothing there.
I'm wondering if... I don't think this is max length. Set a soft limit of 100 characters. This is what I'm looking for. I don't think this is where the settings are. I'm going to go look up in the modules, maybe. Sorry, in configuration.
Yeah, configure, right? So it should be under configuration.
Setting, no. Content authoring.
This also makes sense.
Text formats and editors.
This is like related to content authoring. Could be here.
I don't think it's there. I'm going to go back.
It's not there.
User interface.
Could be in user interface. All of these are like very like logical places that it could be. And it just kind of like, is a good way of empathizing with people new to Drupal. There's so many places that something could conceivably live.
I'm going to go in and see. Maybe it's here. I feel like this is an escape room. And like,
totally.
And like they know the answer to how to get me out of here, but they're not saying anything.
Yeah.
I love that metaphor of the escape room.
And this is a very similar.
Max link. Is that it?
Maximum.
Maximum link.
No,
that's
sorry, that's not.
I wonder if that is part of the module though, because I do know that you can limit link fields, but I don't think so.
Okay, this is not where it is.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go back here.
Okay.
Those are setting something that I missed here. Let's go to help.
Okay, and so go to the help page. Yes. What is
using the form display page? You can limit text field and text areas. Configure max length permissions. That's what I did. Okay. So using the form display. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to content. I'm gonna go back to structure. And I'm gonna go back to content types. Oh wait. Display modes, media types.
It's getting closer. Getting so much closer.
So I'm gonna go back here. And I'm gonna do manage display. Manage
form display. I'm super impressed that she could read this like jargon-filled help page and pinpoint form display is like where you should go.
Let's see. Body.
And then.
Wait, is text area multiple rows? max length.
You found it.
Found
Key to
it.
the escape room.
Set a limit of 100 on a body field.
How long did it take her to do that?
So soft
So
limit.
that was started
So
at a
hard
minute and a half. So that was 4 minutes.
So
to
it
get
says a
to
maximum number of characters revealed.
Okay, so that was.
I believe you go into extend to see modules.
Let's see,
And what I'll do is I'll filter
let me
to see if it
move
exists.
forward.
Oh, look. It's here. It's installed, but it's not.
So yeah, kind of painful to watch. The really rough thing about that too is that there's a permission that is enabled by default for administrators to bypass the max length character limit. And so once she set that, she went back to the body field and saw no character limit message, even though it had been properly configured because she's logged in as the administrator. And so it doesn't see.
Max length.
I'll skip this one.
1,000.
Well, actually, I'll say. So there's an option, safe truncate.
I'm reading the help text here.
Enforce truncate.
So if I get, for instance, if I wrote 1,001 characters, the truncate would stop it from putting in that 1,001 character and stop it at 1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's
I
right.
would wanna
Kudos
enable
for
that.
understanding that.
I think that would be really useful for the kind of people that I have who edit websites.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Hold them to it.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, this is fun though. Watching them try and decipher safe truncate HTML.
Use this option if the input field may contain HTML and you want to exclude the HTML characters from the character count. This will also overwrite the max length validation from core. It's a little restricted tags, but I don't understand what this means.
Yeah.
So I would leave that one alone. I wouldn't touch it.
Cool.
The terrible thing about that though is
yeah.
what that does is it means that it won't count the HTML tag like caret whatever strong strong, which you really should count that. Oh, and now my battery is low and there's not a outlet nearby to plug it to. Let's see. Is there a? Can I steal this extension cord? So here's that. Except I'm not going to be able to plug in there.
He's there.
Is this charging? Not charging. I don't know. We'll see. So that was the original help page, right? Written by developers for developers. Here was the original form that we saw with the force truncate and safe truncate HTML by developers for developers. And so, we define the problems next. So after running those usability tests, here were the issues that we found that would really make this module a lot easier for people to use. We found 14 issues altogether. Guess how many of those 14 usability issues were already reported in the issue queue?
14. 7.
Less.
28. 0.
0.
Wow.
Because my theory is the primary audience site builders aren't comfortable using the issue queue, right? And people are just used to workarounds. So we came up with some ideas on how to fix this, how do we improve this bypass max length permission? We were like, why should anybody be bypassing this? We just took it out. Prototyping, we didn't really do that. We're just kind of working on our free time. So anyway, less than ideal process. But we did put together, we took Drupal's design system, mocked up some improved interfaces. So I guess in that way it's kind of prototyping. And, rename force truncate to hard limit. We're is there any use case where we want to count the HTML characters as part of the countdown message? it just seemed like too much of a, I don't know, like we couldn't find anybody who was using it that way. So we just took that option out. It's just not being counted as part of the character countdown at all. And then we tested. And these usability improvements we made, we were able to increase max length usage by 34% from like when we took over maintainership and started doing this product design approach.
How long was that?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look now. Yeah. I want to say it was about a year of.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Got a call out from Dries about our blog post about this approach. And competitor module was like, yeah, we're not using this anymore. We're using max length.
Nice.
So in an alternate reality, if we had just continued with that do-ocracy, scratch your own itch, like this is what the form could have looked like if we had taken all of the other feature requests, other ideas that people had thrown in there into the issue queue, and just kept it like a really confusing interface that was by developers for developers. And instead we have this nice, clean, easy to use interface by the community for the community. And so, yeah, I know we got started a little bit late, so I'm just gonna, kind of breeze through this, right? So when you ideate, like, evaluate your feature requests based on your strategy and don't be afraid to say no to things. And I'll just skip through this. And because I wanted to, and I have some resources on the slide on some good resources on how to take a product design approach, but kind of wanted to put it into practice. Oh, and I updated, instead of the disclosure menu, I thought we could use the give module. So I will hop over. We've got, about 10 minutes left? So I guess first I'll open it up if anybody has any questions. And then I thought it would be fun to dive in and actually like draft, like first draft sort of product strategy for a project that any of you all are working on, or if you don't have one you want to offer up, then I have one waiting in the wings. So any questions or reactions? Yeah.
One of the, you mentioned the issue queue, like reporting it. I wouldn't be surprised if people tried to, but then got blocked from submitting something because they weren't like approved. Because I've run into that myself where I haven't done whatever I'm supposed to do to be allowed to like comment on issues or provide feedback.
Yeah.
And I can't figure out what I'm supposed to do. So I can't submit issues. I can't comment on issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a developer writing code and like trying to patch stuff, and like if the process is hard to do, like people are just like, well, just either not use it or just not try to customize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
I didn't know that there were projects where you couldn't use it.
Yeah, in Drupal.org, so for the recording, so it's kind of pointing out that in Drupal.org, in order to create an issue, your user account has to have built up enough trust within the Drupal.org system to have the permission to create an issue and maybe even comment on issues,
It seems like a 22 of like, well, I can't contribute, build up.
Right. Yeah. I think it was definitely in response to some legitimate like issues of spam and
But you know what? I know that when I've encouraged people to join Drupal.org for whatever reason, I can vouch for them.
Yeah, and that's right. You can bypass it if you know someone in the community who has the permission to vouch for you. Yeah.
And then that bypasses all of that. So
yeah.
maybe that I mean, are you still having that problem?
What's your
count?
Tree bus.
Yeah, let's get this guy in
You
there.
said tree bus?
Tree.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
You're fixed.
Comment is, I love this perspective. I've spent a lot of time trying to solve similar problems with the authoring interface. So seeing it on the like more admin side is
It's sorted.
probably also guilty of being like, oh, the advanced people know what they're doing. They'll find it.
Yeah.
I guess like kind of thinking big picture around this.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on the challenges in a module-based open source system of things just going in different directions regardless? So like,
Yeah.
I think like the last couple versions of Drupal folded a lot of things in the core
Yeah.
that were like essential, and
Yeah.
that like helped tamp that down. But you still get things where it's like, well, this doesn't play with this, and should we be thinking on that level?
Yeah, I think so. So the question was, let me go back to a slide. Like, in an open source project, it can still be difficult to maintain that kind of discipline of like a coherent direction forward for things. And that's where I think that's where a product strategy is really helpful. Because it's not going to be perfect, but at least if you have that, let's see here. Where is that? It's a little earlier. The values. It's like the values in particular is like really helpful, because you can return back to those and analyze things through that lens. So there we go. So, and that's what we did. So like, is this going to keep the module helpful for authors, intuitive for site builders, sustainable for site owners? So the use case that I zipped through that I was like, I don't think we have time for was, oh gosh, I don't even remember. It was some like scenario that we just felt like would make it less intuitive. And that person was like, cool, I'm going to spin off this like helper module that you can install in addition to max length for my specific use case. And so that helped. And that like leans into the modularity of Drupal, is you can have a module like max length that is addressing 90% of the use cases. And then if there's some like edge case that's going to like sort of explode the scope of it, you can have an additional module for that 10% that people can then install in addition to it. And so the like 90% use case doesn't have to have this cluttered configuration interface with all these like one-off, edge cases. I think that was maybe a roundabout. I don't know if that quite answered your question.
That makes sense,
Yeah.
So, Clayton, I love the fact that you're talking about advocating for the community. And I love the fact that you had those testers going through and looking at things and clearly getting confused, even though you said at least the first one knew Drupal pretty well. And I think that we as a community forget that there's a ton of stuff in Drupal that the way it's labeled is extraordinarily confusing for anybody else. What would you suggest that there should be some kind of community effort to literally go through all of core and align the way that we talk to the way the rest of the web talks? Or do you think we've gone just too far down this road now, 25 years, and the friction would be too great, too hard, and it's not worth it?
Okay, well, that's kind of a wild question because, so the question is like, is it worth taking the time to evaluate the language that we're using currently in Drupal's interface and updating it to use language that is more recognizable by like wider public and address these Drupalisms. I feel like I must have paid you to be a plant in this, because I've been sort of involved in the usability initiative of Drupal core, the Drupal project. And I reached out in the Slack last week. It was like, or maybe earlier this week, of like, hey, I'm going to help with the contrib sprints. Are there any good usability issues? And that's exactly one of them. So there is actually an initiative that's already mostly complete that audited all of Drupal core for all of the Drupalisms and evaluate whether or not any of those should be renamed to something more recognizable to a larger audience. So that has been happening. And there's one issue in particular that if people are interested during the contrib sprint time, I can run some usability tests with like the new interface that people have proposed. Yeah, let's do that. It'll be really fun. Yeah.
And thanks for the $25, by the way.
Yeah. So that's really funny that you asked that, because you actually aren't a plant.
I'm not.
Just on the same brainwave. Cool. Well, we are at time, so I don't know, any final questions before we just wrap up? Since we don't have time to do a hands-on thing, though, if you go to that notes doc I created, there's a template there for defining your vision, your mission, your values. Encourage people to do that. Yeah, thanks. Thank you.